Okay. So do you think I can start or should we wait a little bit?
Well, let's wait. We will get a signal from Nazar.
Yeah.
Okay, we're online.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Contemporary Classical Music Portfolio Ukraine presentation for the music community of Denmark. We are very grateful that you all managed to find the time today to learn more about Ukrainian music scene, and we are looking forward to spending a nice afternoon together with you. I'm happy to be here as a creative producer at Kyiv Contemporary Music Days. And while we're still waiting for some guests to join and for people to find the streaming platforms they prefer, let me quickly guide you through our program for today and briefly introduce our participants. Today, we will present to you the Contemporary Classical Music Portfolio Ukraine. We will unpack a bit what the portfolio is, reveal in more detail when it can be useful to you, how you can use it, and why the need to create such tools is so urgent. To do this in the best possible way, we asked Les Vinogradov, the head manager of the portfolio project, as well as project manager in Kyiv Contemporary Music Days, to make a small virtual tour inside the portfolio. After that, we will dive into a panel discussion among portfolio participants. So they will be composers Adrian Mokano and Jana Szlabanska, and Zvenislava Safyan, co-founder and editor of the Clackers online magazine. The moderator of the discussion, who we are privileged to have here today with us, will be James Black, composer and director of Clank Festival. At this point, I would also like to highlight that unfortunately, there might occur the connection interruptions on the side of the Ukrainian-based participants of the call because, as you probably know, after Russia's large-scale bombing of the critical infrastructure of Ukraine, it is currently quite difficult to have a stable electricity supply and internet connection on a stable basis. But at the same time, some of us are at this meeting from abroad. And nevertheless, we apologize in advance for possible connection disruptions and invite our Ukrainian-based guests to feel free to disconnect and return back to the Zoom whenever it is needed. Obviously, this is totally fine. Moving forward, after the discussion, we will have enough time for questions from the audience. We invite our guests in the Zoom to write your questions in the Zoom chat at any point you would like, and our team will make sure that they will be addressed during the Q&A. We are also streaming these events on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Therefore, our broader audience can leave their questions there, and we will try to forward most of them to our speakers as well. After the Q&A, about an hour from now, an online concert will begin with the works of the composers selected for the portfolio. So I think we are done with the organizational questions for now, and let's see if I can also say a couple of words about the portfolio project and our team. As for the portfolio itself, it is a project that was implemented by Kyiv Contemporary Music Days in 2022. It was developed, curated, and overseen by Les Vinogradov, Albert Saprykin, and by my humble self, with the expert support from musicologists Yuri Chekan and Maria Titova. All the visual solutions, designs, and development of the portfolio was on the strong shoulders of Polina Horodyska. The project financial and legal aspects were taken care by Olha Sauch and Vasily Lutsik. And the concert video you'll see today was edited by Maxim Miklin. Thanks to all their impressive work today, we are finally here, and thanks to the careful technical supervision of Nazari Musenchuk, we should probably start getting to know our guests more. Last but not least, today's event is made possible thanks to the generous invitation from Art Music Denmark, and it's my pleasure to welcome on this virtual stage Regin Petersen, director of Art Music Denmark. Regin is trained as a composer at the Royal Danish Academy of Music. As part of his artistic practice, he co-founded the experimental composer collective Diagon. Beyond his own artistic practice, he has worked with contemporary music as an entrepreneur and producer, and has involved himself extensively in organizational and political work, among others in Danish Composer Society. He was the director of the Klang Festival, Festival for Contemporary Music, for a number of years before he accepted his current position as director of Art Music Denmark. And now, finally, Regin, please take the stage.
Thank you so much, Daria, and thank everyone for joining us here. I've been really looking forward to this event, and I really hope that lots of you Danish musicians and ensembles and so on watching this will also have been looking forward to this unique opportunity to getting to know a little bit some of the people behind some of the Ukrainian music, the contemporary Ukrainian music, which unfortunately we don't get so much of in Denmark. So maybe this is a very good opportunity for you to learn more about that as well. So thank you so much once again to Daria. Thank you so much to Kyiv Contemporary Music Days for co-hosting this with us. I just want to spend a few seconds talk a little bit about my own organization, Art Music Denmark. Art Music Denmark is a national organization of Denmark for classical music, contemporary music, and sound art. And what we do is that we offer free counseling of musicians, composers, and organizations within our genres. We do a lot of international exchange programs in Europe and across the world. We focus a lot of gathering knowledge and initiating network activities such as this one. And finally, we do have a pool for travel support that can be applied directly from us. So that's a little bit about me. So yeah, and us. So once again, thank you so much for doing this together with us. And I'm looking very much forward to this afternoon. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Regin. And now, without further ado, I would like to hand the virtual mic to Les Vinogradov, whose careful curation made portfolio what it is now, and what will hopefully develop in the future even more. Les?
Thank you, Daria. Hello, everyone. It's a true pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank the whole team of Art Music Denmark for making it possible. Back in 2022, when we launched the portfolio project, there was a lot of attention to Ukraine in Europe, which today, sadly, is already fading away. And that is why events such as this one are so valuable. So as I went through my notes for the first portfolio presentation in December 2022, I realized that most things I said back then are still true. We at KCMD always say this to our fellow musicians, scholars, and music institutions around the world. If you wish to support Ukraine, it's easy. Just do these three things. One, include Ukrainian music in your programs. Two, discover Ukrainian culture and give a platform to Ukrainian voices. And three, collaborate with Ukrainian musicians, composers, musicologists, and other music professionals. This being said, we realized it's not always easy to explore the Ukrainian new music scene if you don't speak Ukrainian and don't know where to look. It's even harder to figure out what music professionals in Ukraine to contact if you don't really have any personal references. And that's where the Contemporary Classical Music Portfolio UA comes in to bridge the gap. It's a practical online tool for music professionals to seek collaborations with their Ukrainian counterparts in the field of new music. So now let me share my screen and show you what it looks like and how to use it. I hope you can see it now. All right, so the portfolio is pretty simple in its structure. The current edition is focused on three basic categories. So we have organizations and individual professionals in new music. We have composers who create contemporary classical music, and we have media specialized in classical music, including new music. On the main page, you can see all the profiles that made it to to this edition of the portfolio. And I should mention that this portfolio is by no means exhaustive, nor is it some kind of a hall of fame. It is a curated selection that has its limitations. The KCMD team came up with a long list of candidates. Then we had a round of consultations with colleagues in the field and asked their advice. And then we had to cut it all down to a list of no more than 30 profiles total due to the time constraints. So the current edition of the portfolio represents professionals that we at KCMD believe to be trustworthy partners based on our experience and the experience of our colleagues from Ukraine. So these are the go-to institutions if you wish to cooperate with Ukrainian professionals in the field of new music. So if we look at our categories, the organizations and professionals is in fact quite diverse because here we have concert agencies, but we also have organizers specialized in conferences, or we have organizations that carry out educational programs and so on. So in case you are looking for a specific field, we have this very simple search by a category tool that allows you to do that. So for example, you want residencies, and we don't have that many organizations that work with residencies, but you can find them right away. So if we go to the composers, here everything is pretty straightforward. And there are no subcategories. And here's what a typical profile looks like. As you can see, here's all the contact information. There is a short bio and then a list of featured works with links. So you can go and listen to them right away. It's all here in the same place. And if we go to the organizations and professionals, here, let's look at this profile, for example. Again, it's pretty similar. You have contacts, the about section, then a list of projects with descriptions and links, and then you have a gallery, and this gallery is basically kind of a teaser to give you an idea about the kind of work that this particular organizer is doing. So if we go to the media section, right now it looks a little lonely, but we're happy that such media as the Clackers exist in Ukraine, and we definitely recommend you to follow them. They have a dedicated English language section on their website, and it's all good quality journalism. But you will learn more about them in a few minutes from Zvenislava Sapian. So as you can see, this portfolio is designed mainly for organizers of events outside of Ukraine, such as international music institutions, festival programmers, conferences, and so on. And it allows you to find the right person or institution in Ukraine to work with, be it a concert agency, a philharmonic, a media, or a composer that you could approach to commission music. And with Portfolio, you have everything you need to know about this person or institution in one place with contacts and all. This is the first edition of the portfolio, and I'm happy to announce that this year we intend to expand it. There will be more Ukrainian composers on our roster, and we are planning to add a whole new category, the performers, which will include soloists, ensembles, and orchestras. So I invite you to follow our updates and check the portfolio as it gets bigger and bigger. And as for now, we truly hope that you will find the portfolio a useful tool that will help launch new, exciting collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. I think it was very informative diving into the portfolio. I hope it was helpful for our guests, interesting as well. And now it is time to meet some of the selected to the portfolio representatives of the Ukrainian new music terrain. Before our panel discussion starts, I would like to quickly remind that we invite you to leave your questions to the speakers in the Zoom chat and on our YouTube and Facebook pages. And now it is time to give the floor to James Black, just quickly introducing him in advance. James is the composer, performer, and artistic director of Klang Festival since 2022, originally from Bristol, but based in Denmark since 2013, graduated of the University of Oxford and the Royal Danish Academy of Music. As a composer, Black's work lies at the intersection of score music and performance art, encompassing all possible media and genres in a deeply personal exploration of, among other things, religion, queer identity, and loss. They also work as a co-director of the Danish New Music Academy, a summer course that takes place in Aarhus every 2 years, gathering performers and composers from around the world for 6 days of intense and collaborative music making. James, please take the lead.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me to take part in this wonderful and important event. I'm really honored to be asked to moderate this discussion. I've spent some time with the portfolios and the work of the clackers, and there's a lot of very interesting work happening out there that I'm very excited to talk about. So thank you so much for inviting me here. So I asked all of the participants, we've got 3 participants today. They are composer Jana Sliabenska and Adrian Mokanu, and then Zvenislava, who is from the editor and co-founder of The Clackers. So I asked all of the participants to just give a 5-minute introduction to themselves and their work before we dive in properly with some questions. So I'd like to start with Jana, if you'd like to just give us a brief introduction to your creative practice and your work.
Okay, hello everyone. First of all, quickly want to thank you all the people who are involved today, and thank you for especially for Denmark community to the attention to Ukrainian contemporary music. And about the introduction, I'm a Ukrainian composer and sound artist. I work in several spheres. It's a contemporary art music composition, it's a live electronic performances and electroacoustic music, also sound installations, also music for theater, dance and performances, and sound design. So these 4 or 5 spheres are spheres of my work, and I studied at the Music Academy in Kyiv, as my colleagues also, as Adrian and Zvenislava. And I came to Kyiv in 2014, and it was the year of Revolution of Dignity, because originally I'm not from Kyiv, I'm from Vinnytsia, it's southwest of from Kyiv, and this was quite special period. I remember the first revolution, it was the Orange Revolution. If you are familiar with such revolution in Ukraine, it was quite intensive revolution when people were orange, something orange, and they supported president of Ukraine. They wanted, and I do remember this when I was in the age of 10, and it was one of the most bright memory of my childhood, actually, when all the people around were so much united. My family also, and my very old grandfather, who couldn't even left his home. He went to the revolution. So it was quite special period. Why I'm talking about this? Because I relate some special moments in my life to the revolution. Then when I was going to enter the academy, the musical academy, there was another revolution of dignity, and I was in Kyiv in winter, and it was a special period for me. We went there with our professors from musical college together, and it was scareful, but at the other point, I never felt such emotions before. I never felt people such united as then. And I remember Maidan near our conservatory, our musical academy. It's in the central part of Kyiv, and it's heart of Kyiv. Like, it's the main place where all the revolutions are. And the academy was exactly there. And I remember my exams. When I went to each exam, I passed the people who left, because there was no strong actions at that time already, because it was already summer, and the most hot period, it was the winter. But still, there were some people at that time, and the atmosphere of something, the memory was very fresh of that period. And then I remember that I spent my student years near the academy. There is some grass covered place, and I spent there a lot of hours studying something. And now I passed this place, and there is a lot of Ukrainian flags, and each of these Ukrainian flag related to died soldier, and there is thousands of these flags. So that is the very peaceful place, students' place, when they, for example, had their lunch. And now this is completely different place. It would be the eternal memorial. I think that will never come back to that meaning that before, because who will win this memorial? It's impossible. So what I'm talking about, I just don't want to present my music that much, because we will have the concert, and we have this beautiful, this perfect, I think, portfolio with links, with everything, and you can discover everything there, and you can have all the links. And what is more important to me, just to give some context of the creation of the creative work, of my personal creative work. Yes, thank you. I think I'm done.
Thank you, Jana. I can't wait to ask you some questions, but I'm going to move on to Adrian now. So Adrian, if you would like to introduce yourself and your practice, please.
Hi, hello everyone, and first of all, thank you a lot for the invitation, as well as thank you to KCMD and Art Music Denmark for hosting this event, and I'm really happy to be here. And I think I'm also not, I'm not going to talk about my music like as examples, which you probably can hear during the concert or the presentation, or you can just Google and find it on SoundCloud or elsewhere. What I want to talk about, okay, just like a short presentation where I come from, what I'm doing. So yes, I was born in Kyiv. I had graduated from the National Music Academy of Ukraine. Then I made my master's studies in Madrid. And so of course, I'm writing all kinds of music, starting from instrumental music, electroacoustic music, solo instruments, orchestra, vocal, whatever. What I want to talk about is about the mission of the composer, which I think I started to think about since the outbreak of the full-scale invasion in the beginning of 2022, because many things have changed for me as a composer, and I started to, you know, reconsider the role of the artist in the society. And I think this is something that I could talk about because in many of the works that I wrote during these two years and a half, I tried to make some sort of reflection of the theme of the war, of the theme of the invasion, of the theme of Ukrainian identity. And I think in a way, my mission is to try to find this language in which you can speak to the Western audiences, because not everyone from any Western country can actually try to understand the context. And you have to find this language which would be accessible for them. And at the same time, you can give voice to some ideas and represent them, because I really think, I'm convinced that Ukrainian culture has never been detached from European culture. They always coexisted. And it is, I think, one of the consequences of the colonialist imperial policy that Ukraine was suffering from during hundreds of years, that our culture became a little bit detached from Europe, and now we're trying to find our way back to the European family. And in many of my works, on the one hand, I was trying to, you know, provide a reflection about Ukrainian identity, and on the other hand, in a way, you can also try to think about the way that you can transcribe the reality of wartime, or maybe just provide some reflections about, for example, witnessing these things that were going on. And one of the works that I can just like make a brief example of how you can implement these actions. So, for example, one of my recent pieces was written for, it was commissioned from EMA Ensemble, the International Ensemble Modern Academy, intended to be performed at the Impulse Festival and later at Gaudeamus in Utrecht. And this piece bears a title. So on the one hand, it is called in Italian, so it's called Kyiv Esplorazioni delle Tenebre, which means explorations of darkness. And the first word, Kyiv, is actually the name of Kyiv in Latin language, which was used in the medieval times. And this was my way of trying to, you know, shed light on this history of colonialism, where in many Romance languages, they still call Kyiv, was, you know, it's spelled like in a way that comes from a Russian transliteration. And my intention was to find this, you know, analog from the Latin languages that shows that this city actually had a quite rich history, and that existed long before this entire imperialism coming from the Russian Empire. Even it didn't exist at the time, when, you know, historically what was happening in the Kyiv Rus was very different, and it was a different thing. So at this point, and on the other hand, you know, Explorations of Darkness is referring directly to the blackouts that were caused by bombings, by shellings that were happening last winter in Ukraine. So I tried to, you know, find this sort of connection, how you can, on the one hand, transcribe this feeling of darkness, both literal and metaphorical, and connect it to a specific place which I'm coming from, which is important for me. And you can look for this piece both on YouTube or on SoundCloud. I think there are even 2 performances. And also talking about, I mentioned the word colonialism a couple of times. You know, I've actually started thinking about it after I did a project with Ensemble Research. They had a residency which was called Post-Colonial Research, and they offered like the selected composers. There were 10 from them coming from the countries which, in a way, in one way or another, were suffering from past colonialism. And they were invited to provide some sort of reflections about the identity of their countries. And in this way, I started looking at Ukrainian mythology, at Ukrainian literature. And the piece that I wrote, it actually is titled in French, and it's called Les Chevaux de Feu, which means the fire horses. And it actually is the translation of a one of the most influential novels from Ukrainian literature, which direct title is The Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. But when it was first published in France, they chose this title, The Fire Forces. And for me, it was also a way to connect Ukrainian folklore and mythology in a kind of a European context, which would be accessible for people who are not familiar with it, and maybe try to invite them to discover something about it. So I think that's basically what I'm doing right now. And also in some future projects, I also want to, for example, I could just provide you a short example how you can make a statement, even a political statement in music. So the project that I'm actually doing right now is taking place in Berlin with the Maulwerker ensemble, an experimental ensemble of singers, vocal ensemble. So if you know this piece by Carlo, I'm sorry, yes, Monteverdi, Claudio Monteverdi, I'm sorry, I'm confusing. Yeah, by Claudio Monteverdi, Madrigali Guerrieri et Amorosi, right? So the piece that I'm writing is going to be called Madrigali Guerrieri, and that's it. So it means wartime madrigals. And on the one hand, it is a reflection about, living in the time of the war, and also cutting out the amorosi, which means there is no space for love in the society that we're living in. And it is a form of reflection, that there are the madrigals of our time. And I want to ask a question: if there is really no space for love in this time, because we're surrounded by war, and this is something that we're going through. And I think that's it. Yeah. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I have so many questions, but we're going to move on to, thank you so much. That was extremely interesting. But let's move on to Branislava, who will introduce their work with the Clackers.
Yeah, hello everyone, and huge thanks to the organizers for hosting such an important presentation. Yeah, today I'd like to spread the word about the Ukrainian classical music art that more and more people want to acknowledge. Because, let me humbly present the most advanced source of such information to you and point out the directions we are working on. Because while founded in 2020 by four musicologists, Stasnev, Merzhitsky, Liza Sirenko, Alexander Ostrovsky, and me, the Clockers was probably the only source in Ukraine where young professionals could express their thoughts and at that times, fresh and uncensored eye on the events was needed to shake up the community and to complete this classical music ecosystem. Yeah, and that was back in 2020, and I hope that we worked successfully to achieve it. But here I also wanted to recall the very first months of my work at the Clockers as editor-in-chief, not only as a contributor. Because in early February 2022, it was obvious to me how to write and edit articles about music concerts, or how to ban from posting unqualified reviews or complimentary interviews. But at that time, I had no idea that in several weeks I would find myself sitting and constantly staring at the screen of my laptop while I was deciding which photos from Bucha were less shocking to publish them in the article about our musician who witnessed this tragedy in the occupied cities. And secondly, I couldn't imagine that in May 2022, my conversation with one of the composers of now world-known artwork, Lullaby for Mariupol, would include such topics as the weight of bombs exploded at the City Drama Theater, but not the specifics of music interpretation or other professional things. Yeah, so that was such shift in our activities. And maybe these professional things became at once not so important, because especially when you hear this story about a little pianist, a 10-year-old girl from one of the cities in the Kyiv region, and her house where Russian soldiers left a mine right in her piano. You understand that if the girl started playing after coming back home, it would just blow everything up. So after these things, it was that were really hard to imagine, but never hard to continue our work, because really when the full-scale war started, each of our team has felt that we are doing something important. And I would also like to say that the amount of readers, especially foreign readers, has increased significantly at this moment. So that's why after this shift I presented, it was always crucial for us to develop our English language version of the website, because people from abroad knew about Ukrainian music mainly from the Russian perspective and often could not distinguish between Ukrainian and Russian music. That's why we focused on the explanations of how Ukrainian culture has always moved alongside European culture, with its own differences, of course, but difference that were deep-rooted in this area and were quite European. So it seems consequential now that there are such well-known Ukrainian contemporary composers, Yana, Adrian, and as well as Anna Arkushina, Anna Korsun, Alla Zahaikevich, or Maxim Shaligin, and many other artists that you can find our interviews with them or texts that explain their creativity. That is also one direction, and I would like to emphasize that with this space of time in the period of full-scale war, we continued publishing educational texts and writing about some regular, so to say, things. And we've been writing about significant international contemporary music festivals in Huddersfield with Graham Mackenzie, about Warsaw Autumn with Jerzy Kornowicz, and published interviews with Christian Phillips, the artistic director of the Zing Academy to Berlin, and spoke with Danish, Polish, Latvian musicians. So as you can see, the local music scene is not the only field of our interest. On the other hand, we couldn't avoid speaking up about war, because many of our musicians' friends are military officers. Many of them have died, and some have been living under occupation. And one of our stories is about musicians from military bands who were taken prisoner after the fall of Azovstal. And even today, I'm speaking here on behalf of our group instead of the Clacker's owner and CEO, Stas Nevmerzhitsky, who bravely joined the army just a few days ago. That's it. And maybe to conclude, I wanted to mention our very first wartime review and the quote by our young author, Maria Dovhun, who spoke about some first concert activities that occurred in March of 2022. And she said that writing these articles, and playing concerts, this is how we show the world that we are invincible and our weapons are not only physical but spiritual. That's what we stick to now. And yeah, thank you for your attention. I'll be very glad to answer questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wow, there's a lot to dive into here. I think I'd like to start by teasing out a thread that appeared in all of your presentations, and that was this kind of need to communicate with the West and to need to communicate with Europe. And there was the specific concrete example with the clackers of putting articles in English. That is a literal concrete language thing. But I'm curious from the composers, Adrian, you highlighted that you wanted to use your musical language that was accessible to European audiences. Speaking as a Western European myself, how did you go about this, and what is your conception of how a European audience member would listen in this way, and how did you approach that kind of?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Well, when I speak about European audiences, first of all, I'm referring to, the thing that we all call contemporary music, right? Because this is something that I was writing before, that I'm still writing, and that is the field of my interest. That is the things that I was studying. That is what interests me. But I started thinking, okay, you write music, but is there something that you want to say with it? So of course there was always something that I wanted to say. I just changed my perspective. So I tried to find a way to accommodate some, crucial topics and find a way to express a way of reflecting about these topics, to provide a reflection about them. So, for example, the piece that I mentioned was the post-colonial research. So on the one hand, I, of course, used a lot of, extended possibilities of instruments and stuff like that because I was writing for ensemble research. But I built the material, the musical material, not only on the idea of this, novel, which refers to Ukrainian folklore, but I also I also utilized some quotations from specific folkloric pieces that come from the Transcarpathian region, which is where my roots come from, and tried to, express it in the language of extended techniques and also like, improvisation, like pattern-based improvisation, for example. So stuff like that.
That's wonderful. I think it's very fascinating how the language of extended techniques is somehow seen as a European or this new music universal language in some way. That's very. But I would like to ask the same question to Jana. But Jana, I have a very specific kind of thing I was thinking about when I encountered your music specifically, and that I saw a performance of a piece, a small chamber piece that was done in a museum in New York, I think it was, and in the background of this staging, there was some what looked to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, looked like traditional Ukrainian outfits, dresses. Is that correct?
Yes, this is correct. But sometimes you come to that kind of conditions which you not plan. It was not pre-planned. It was not a ethnographical decision.
No, I'm curious how you felt about that. I didn't imagine it was part of your staging. I'm curious about how you felt about this explicit connection to folk culture being put there in your music.
For me, it still looks a bit strange because I think there is no need to put this, but it's strange and even somehow funny. I'm not against of mixing or of putting things together and to putting things to folk context, and I'm not against the folk music, and I'm not against of working with folk music, but sometimes it looks here it looks a bit strange. From my professor in Kyiv, Alla Zagaikevich, once I've heard such a phrase: you don't need to work with Ukrainian material, musical material, to be Ukrainian composer. And it's a very simple phrase, but when I've heard this phrase, I was on my first year at the academy, and I was pretty young. And before working with Ukrainian material, it was a part of my identity. I was looking for something Ukrainian. It shouldn't be necessary the Ukrainian melody, for example. It could be some Ukrainian subject. It was important to me to have something like this in piece. I don't know why. It was like important part of my personal expression. And this, what she said, it was a bit new for me. And I started to think this way, that I don't need to have something specifically Ukrainian in my piece to be Ukrainian composer. So, yeah.
Now that you've been working for several years as a composer and you're a few years away from that statement, can you point, and it's fine if the answer to this question is no, absolutely not, but can you point to something in your work that you can say, this is Ukrainian, that's not necessarily traditional Ukrainian music? Is there something there?
I don't know. It could be something different. I cannot enlighten something specific, for example, because from piece to piece it could be something different. But for sure, being Ukraine, I mean, it's a complicated topic of being composer and being a human during a war and experiencing the war and bringing it to your music, or not bringing, but still having some influences of war as a person. So how could we say we are related or not with Ukraine, or with the context of being Ukrainian? So I mean, it's a very complex thing. Even we don't mention something specific, it's very simple. It's very how to say, going by surface, when touching just
surface level. Yeah.
Yes, a surface level. When you just talk about something specific, when you consider it's much more complex. And even I started to think that sometimes pieces not about war, which you see from Ukrainian artists, they are so much influenced with war, and they are so painful that when we know, we are exactly know why we see this, but they are not specifically, they are not related on a surface level. They are not related with war. So and I think that Ukrainian art in general, not only music but art in general, from February 22, it changed a lot of ways of expressions. From this way, when you see the war very, how to say, very you see the war, and to many different ways, with some I mean, much more complex ways of expression. I don't know if it's clear or not, because I'm trying to shape something.
No, I think it's quite clear. As I understand what you're saying, you something that you've noticed is that even if pieces aren't explicitly about the war, you can feel some kind of deeper, not even reference, deeper than reference, some substance that has to do with that.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Exactly. And it could be even comedy, it could be humor, it could be ironic, it could be everything, but it could be not name about the war. And I want just to make a parallel with your question, that how do we express the war on this way? So this way we also express ourselves like Ukrainians. We don't need to have something specifically Ukrainian to be Ukrainian composers. Let's come back to that phrase of my professor.
Yeah, it's a very powerful phrase, I think. How about you, Venislava? How have you, apart from the concrete English language thing, how have you thought about turning out towards European audiences, if that's your aim as well?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you for such important thoughts, Jana and Adrian. It was very interesting, and I hope that we will publish some excerpts in Clackers about that. Yeah, because really we started to think about how we can present this experience of this reality in a really professional way, and to give not only the first documents, as I've talked about, Girl with Piano, and these first moments of full-scale war. So it was like maybe in 2 or 3 months that we understood that our mission is not only to document and our really the possibilities of us, because firstly, not many authors were just in condition to write any scene. So when we elaborated and got to this idea to explain, to share with the whole world things that we see here, we tried to publish articles on such themes, that, as we said, colonial studies, but we tried to prove it, to give the examples of many compositions and authors who were involved into this, and not only Ukrainian, but many composers that were just not really distinguished between Ukraine and Russia. And that was our first point. Then we also we have this clear position about Russian music and attitude towards it, that it needs to be critically reassessed, and maybe that was the main areas of what we talked through. But also maybe just these regular things that we have a lot of publications about, I don't know, Bach and some Baroque composers who we experience now at a different way. So maybe not just contemporary scene also, but some kind of previous era of music was. It was strange, but it was interest of our media.
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on something you just said in relation to something Adrian said earlier about reassessing your role and reassessing your function in society. And I read when you started the class, you had this satisfaction with, you know, reviews only being surface level or very positive. And obviously this is before the conflict, but what's the question I need to ask here? How has Yeah, you said something in your introduction about you found it never hard to continue. But now that we have some time, now we have some distance between, where do you see your role now in the function of broader society? That's not just writing a nice review of a concert. What's the role really?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just wanted to make a short remark before I answer it, that maybe unlike in the Western Europe and North America, our Ukrainian music audiences are much younger, and our authors are also younger. So maybe our task on explaining to these new listeners all around the world was about this long tradition of classical music in Ukraine, how it exists and how it became part of our cultural life. So it's mainly educational purpose, but also it's a bridges between cultures, and about diverse musical genres and other arts. So because we have also music in literature, music in films sections, and maybe it's cultivating audience abroad and getting them to know about something specific in Ukraine that wasn't even on the internet before. Yeah.
So you kind of see your role in a dissemination way of
Yeah.
just spreading awareness of the culture. How do you approach this, Adrian and Yana? Do you see yourself in the same way as spreading Ukrainian culture? What's your function?
No, no, I don't see this. I mean, for the organization, it's a good role, but for the artist, I think it's no. As for me, it's too much.
So where are you then? What is your role?
But I think that every person in some point is spreading Ukrainian culture, being abroad, as I am now. So I mean, we are a bit, all of us are a bit ambassadors of Ukrainian culture, because we create all of us being everywhere. I mean, not doesn't matter where, we create our own network of our friends, colleagues, and so on and so on. And this network, I mean, we have new friends, new colleagues between European people, and these friends, they through us, they know Ukraine. They become to know Ukraine, and they become familiar with Ukraine. And from us, as these small ambassadors, they have some kind of empathy to Ukraine, because I believe that personal connections, they are the most valuable, because news, everything, I mean, media, yeah, it's good to have good news, good medias, but personal connections, that is, I mean, we are developing, the society is developing, but still the personal connection is that we trust the most, probably. And so that's why I feel that I'm not as a composer, like spreading Ukrainian culture, but just like a person. I'm spreading Ukrainian culture. I make impression of Ukrainian. I make some image of Ukrainian among my friends, and this is enough. For me, it's totally enough. Of course, I'm happy to, and when I have the ability to talk from the stage, because I can talk to more people from there. Yes, that's it. Thank
Wonderful. No, wonderful. Yeah. And how are you, Adrian? You were the one who wanted to reconsider the role of a composer. What have you landed on?
Yeah, well, look, first of all, I want to agree with what Jana just said. You know, regardless of what you write, still, as a Ukrainian, you know, as a Ukrainian citizen, whatever you write and present at concerts, it is going to represent Ukraine in a way. When you know you open the program notes and you see your name and you say, and it says UA, so okay, it's already representing Ukraine in a way. And of course, not every piece has to be a political statement. You have to clearly understand who you're talking to and when and why. And if there is a message that you want to send, of course, you have to use this opportunity. Like, for example, that opportunity that I mentioned that was presented at the festival Impulse in Graz, Austria, and Gaudiamus in the Netherlands. I intentionally used this opportunity to, you know, to spread this message in two of the most, you know, let's say skeptical countries in the EU towards the position on Ukraine. But on the other hand, even if you write something which is on the first hand, you know, in the first glance, it's not related to war, but then you realize, okay, I can just state an example. Like one of the recent pieces that I wrote was for residency in Spain, and it was a piece connected with, you know, the medieval albas, you know, the medieval genre of, you know, this troubadour music. And then after the concert, there was a sort of a public talk, and you go on stage and people ask you questions, and they ask you like, where is this darkness coming from? Why, what is it? What is it? And then you, of course, maybe I didn't even think about it at that time, but it was okay. Well, as you know, as you can see in the program notes, I'm from Ukraine, and probably this darkness that you saw in the music, which I didn't want to talk about, you know, in a political way, but it's still there and people notice it. And I think this is even more valuable when there is something that they come to, you know, they come to a conclusion which is not being told like in a way, look, this is a political statement, this piece is a statement, but they discover it and they ask you, okay, but why is it like that? And oh, that's because you're from, okay, now I understand. And I think this is also very, very valuable.
So is it fair to say that you see the role that you've landed on right now is to kind of help people engage with these self-critical processes or reflective processes? Is that?
I think my main mission as a composer, you know, is to provoke discussion and to make the audience ask questions. And this is the most important. If I can change at least one person in the audience, that they ask some questions, and after hearing what I wrote, they will be a little bit, they could change a little bit for the better. Well, I mean, for the better, hopefully, I don't know. Then I think this is what music is for, to provoke change, to make us change.
Yeah, yeah. I think every artist understands this, and I think every artist also understands the struggle, or the struggle, the tension that can arise when some identity is put on you from outside. In, you know, why is your music like this? Why have you written like this? I think it's yeah, quite often these things are external rather than internal. So, you know, I've asked questions about Ukrainian identity right now. I'm putting that on you. Maybe that's not what you want to talk about, but I do want to talk about the ecosystem, the music education ecosystem in Ukraine. I mean, I wanted to ask about your early experiences of music and what led you to new music, but something came up that I would like to ask you about, and that is something that Slavia said about the audiences are younger. Why are the audience younger?
Maybe Just because, firstly, of our title, our media is called The Clockers, and those is referred to the people who were clapping his hands, and they were paid for it, no matter if the concert was positive or negative. But let's just pretend it didn't say that, because yeah, maybe. And there were, of course, there were many proactive critics before us, and like previous two generations that were working on in a cultural promotions and maybe in education. So they were writing many things, but then this scene was just limited to this, as I said, positive reviews or no reviews at all. So when we just when we were established and we started our work during pandemic time, so there was all things were on the internet. So the people who were reading us, they're like our relatives, our peers, our mates, and that's how it started. And then it just our audience has grown into people who like music, who like classical music and needs the explanation of it. Of course, we have many very old readers, because we often get many comments from them about why did you write that Bach was something like that, and that's very funny. But all of them are engaged, and we are thankful for their opinions. Yeah, so I guess that this role of education in Ukraine and education on contemporary things is just spreading. Yeah, maybe it's just not it wasn't so popular, and in academies there were many teachers, professors who just who've been giving their students the examples of early 20th or early 20th century as the contemporary music, which is not right. So we are, as the Clockers, we are also on a mission of changing that, because contemporary is what's happening now, and maybe our articles are even the source for these professors and students now that just learn about such things as even extended techniques and something like that.
Wonderful. I love your audience profile. It's very cool to me. So you're saying it started in your network and then it just kind of grew from there?
Yeah, but we first originally we just started our activity from the reviews about a very yeah, let's say about the piano concert at the National Philharmonic. So we've been already trying to reach all the audience we have. So the biggest philharmonic in Kyiv, and the negative reviews on it. But yeah.
Oh, Jana, did you raise your hand? No, you just raised your hand. Love it. Okay, so you had this kind of provocative angle about putting criticism where criticism wasn't before. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was I guess it was just the one right way to start it, because breaking the ice, like with those very good complementary things that were before. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
we're
it's
all
young,
familiar.
but professional also, because all of our authors and contributors are they have this education, and they do such things that not many people can provide.
So to go back to what my original point was about how all of you encountered new music, how did you, Venislava, encounter new music? You're a musicologist, correct?
Yeah, I am.
And
Uh, Frankly speaking, I was a student of Miroslav Skorek at the class of composer, and he just, as you know, he was like a person of new folklore way of singing, let's just say. Many avant-garde things we can find in his creativity, but that's just not contemporary, of course. And one lesson he was thinking, what should this girl study? And he just let me in this world of contemporary music about, I don't know, about our our mates, he said, don't you think about some of my students, about Anna Korsun? Yeah, I just saw that this is really something incredible that we don't hear often at our scenes, at our stages. And in Philharmonic, there were, I don't think that there were many concerts of Anna Korsun music or something like that. And then I just worked on it, and now my thesis I'm working on is about experimental music of Ukrainian women composers. Yeah, so that's it.
Great. How about you, Yana? How did you end up with new music and composing?
Mm. Yeah, as I talked before, I'm not from Kyiv, originally from the capital, so I'm from the smaller city. It's not that small, but still it's not so good if you want to experience something really special, like new music. And I was trained like a classical pianist, and I didn't know about contemporary music at all, even though I always composed since I was like since very young, since 7 or 8 something. So I was interested in composing, but I didn't know about new music. And when I came to Kyiv, actually things haven't changed that much, because I came to the class of very conservative professor, like neo-romanticism is his style, and he taught this. And when I brought him some special ideas which I wanted to special for me, ideas which I wanted to develop, he was not attentive enough to them. And for my development, the very important role was the Kyiv Contemporary Music Days, actually, because they started to build international connections, and they started to invite international artists to Ukraine to provide master classes. And with these connections, I learned a lot from people, actually, from these professors and from people coming. And some of these connections I have still, and I work with some people that I met almost 10 years ago on master classes, so they are my friends, and so on and so on. So that's how things build. And I didn't know that, and it looked very special for us. But when I started to speak with people, it was a normal practice to Europe since years, since maybe century. But for us, it was very special. It was like very new. And I would mention again that in 2014, that was turning point, revolution of dignity. But before 2014, Ukrainians didn't have a visa-free regime. So it was, could you imagine that it was just simply a problem to travel to Europe for masterclass? I mean, it was not that simple. And I was very surprised when my friends from abroad, when they told me, okay, I am going for weekend to masterclass from whatever, I don't know, from Germany to Austria. And I was just, you just crossed the border, like you just simply crossed the border. Is it important? I mean, for me, crossing the border for years, it was like very specific event. Like you prepare this for a year, and then you collect a lot of money to go abroad to study. So it was not that simple to communicate and to build this. Yes, and so I also relate this education with such the organizations like Kyiv Contemporary, such initiatives like Kyiv Contemporary Music Days, like concerts of UHO Ensemble and projects of UHO organization. Yes, that was probably the most valuable in the way of development. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Yana. And Adrian, how about you? How did you encounter it?
Well, for me, it was mostly about self-education, because I was discovering it all by myself, and it was not thanks to the Music Academy of Ukraine that all of the participants have mentioned so many times, and I also have things to say, but it was not thanks to, but in spite of. It was like, I was, since the beginning of my, career as a composer, since the beginning of my studies, I was focused on finding something, but the something was abroad because, yeah, as Jana just mentioned, I think we got the opportunity to travel without a visa to the EU in 2017. And I remember that the first international masterclass that I went to, which was in Barcelona, I had to apply for a visa, and it was like such a long process. It was so difficult, and I did it. And then, of course, when we got this opportunity to at least travel without a visa to the European Union, I started to use it, and by attending master classes, I think I got a lot more knowledge and experience, and by communicating with many composition professors and also your peers and the musicians and ensembles, it was valuable. Of course, we had similar opportunities in Ukraine, of course, like KCMD. Some things were happening, but it was not thanks to the musical education system, but more like despite of, because the musical education system, I think it needs to be rethought, at least. I don't know, it needs to be a lot of rethinking done. Because if we mention the academy in Kyiv right now, I don't know if you know about this story, but they stick to this name of Tchaikovsky for such a long time, and it's just, ironical. It's a paradox. I don't know why, but and I think there's processes that we need to change. Yeah.
Thank you. In spite of, I can't believe it's still called the Tchaikovsky Academy. That's wild.
Yeah, they have it, and I mean, there is a lot of movement. There are a lot of people who have voiced their opinion, and I mean, people who should be listened to, with arguments, with statements, and still the direction, they are just like, no, they're trying to present it as if it were a Ukrainian composer, which it's not. It's not, but I don't know. I mean, there's such a painful topic for us,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, something that comes to mind, especially working with new music, is the idea that this genre, as you know very well in the clackers, is so kind of linked to classical music and underneath the thumb of classical music, which has this, at least the way I've experienced it, has this kind of self-preservation goal of saying, this is a masterpiece, this is the Museum of Musical Works, blah, 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 preserve the canon, etc., etc., etc. But we're in a position of trying to encourage people whose goal is to preserve to reflect and develop, and it's a constant. Yeah, everybody knows about this. But I think our time might be coming to an end. How much time do we have left, Daria?
I would say that you have at least 5 more minutes if you feel like
Here we go, 5
you
more
want to
minutes.
continue.
Okay, are there any questions from the live stream? I can't see any in the chat.
I guess it's quite a silent audience today.
That's fine. I have one small question that's actually quite a big, important question. Just to go, and it's for you, Jana, but all of you feel free to jump in. Just to go deeper on this early experiences with music, something that you mentioned was that you started composing pieces when you were 6 or 7. That's young. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, specifically, it gives us nothing about our discussion. It's something very personal. Just that's it. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I'm just not. I don't like to dive deep to personal stories. Yeah, but maybe I just wanted to add something. It is related to previous questions. I don't remember which exactly, but it was about the collaborations with of Ukrainian composers with European musicians. So I just want to add the small thing that as Les Vinogradov mentioned before, that what could be done to support Ukrainian artists if there is any intention to do this, that to perform Ukrainian music, to collaborate. But I would say that from my experience, it's very important to just to get know people and to try to collaborate with them. It's much more important than just to perform music. In a long time perspective, it's just very good to build some connections and to know these people and to understand that Ukrainians actually a part of European context, and it's not some Asian music or some Asian culture. It's not the East culture. That Ukrainian music is part of the Western cultural music, Western art music, even though we have some problems with the education, etc., etc. But I still feel that we are a big part, a huge part of European context, of Western European music context. Because, and also this is a painful point for me, I mentioned this East culture because I got a lot of questions. I was a speaker of some conferences during these 2 years, and I got a lot of questions about Eastern culture, informal way, and then in informal way during some dinner or something, that, oh, okay, you are from Ukraine, so you have a lot of Eastern culture there. So I think this is a part also of Russian propaganda, because even though we have Crimean Tatar, but it's very small. Could you imagine how Ukraine is big? Ukraine is huge. And this Crimean Tatar is very minority of people, and we don't have that much of influences of East. And this propaganda, this thought is part of propaganda, I think, because that's how this divide us from the European community. Like, oh, okay, they are different. They are from Asia. They are more into Asia. They are from the. Okay, but I don't. Maybe I don't want to dive to this because. I'm not into dividing people at all. I mean, I just respect being a human being, not to be Asian or European or something. I just want to mention something that this Asian things, Asian thoughts are happening relating to Ukrainian culture, and I just want to insist on this, that we are a part of European context, and it's very good to be invited not only on a charity position or solidarity or like in the gesture of solidarity, but being interesting to people to collaborate with us, like with artists. It's the most probably valuable. Not just that the ensemble or the organization has a quote and they just need to have Ukrainian artists here, but they just want to discover Ukrainian artists and they just want to invite him or her or them because they are cool and nice and interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. That's great. Adrian, Venislava, do you have anything more to add?
Yeah, I have if I may, yeah, just yeah, I think people in general have to stop looking at us as something exotic, because of course you look at something which you don't know and you perceive it as exotic, but in fact we're not that exotic. And I think of course this is something that we have to do as artists, and the way we position ourselves, that there are things that are interesting not because they are Ukrainian and unknown and exotic, but just because they are interesting. Okay, so I, as an artist, for example, I want to be appreciated for the value of my music and not just for my nationality. And I want to be invited to projects, not just because, okay, we want, of course, I must state that this is very important, the solidarity and the support that was coming since the beginning of the invasion. It is, and it was, and I hope it will keep being like that, important. But I think at some point we have to understand that, okay, we want to hear this, we want to perform this just because we are interested in what is behind it, and not just for formal reasons like, okay, we have to include this and this and this based on the nationality factor. So this is basically what Jana said, but just in other words. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would just want to add a very small thing to this, that probably it's very bad for us probably to when we are somewhere just because we are Ukrainians. But at some point, it's very good to have such an events when you just get the ability to know people, to know Ukrainians. So this I'm not against the specific Ukrainian events because they pay attention for Ukrainian artists. Maybe they don't have another ability to have a voice somewhere just on these events, and that's how some communities, some professional communities could get know people and artists from Ukraine.
Yes, of course. I think this is just to stabilize, this disproportional situation in which we didn't know about Ukraine for a long time, and now we're trying to compensate it. But I'm just saying that for me personally, as an artist, it would be more, I don't know, I would feel more complete if I knew that, okay, for example, I got a commission for a piece just because people want to hear what I want to say, and that's it.
Thank you. I think that's a powerful point to end on. Venislava, do you have something to add?
No, actually, I agree totally with all that said. And yeah, we also think that our articles are, we hope that they are worthy just to read, no matter if it's Ukrainian or not. But also, as the organization, at some point, we would just like to the world to discover more, and we encourage everyone to read, to listen, to present, and to yeah, and thank you for this connection, because here at this event it is really important that we all had our voices allowed, and we will truly continue doing this.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to say on the last point, I am extremely grateful to encounter all of your works, not because they're Ukrainian, but because I am very interested in all your work and I have been moved by all of it, and it's been a great discussion. And I can't wait to see all of you at some point in real life in the future. So I think we'll end it there according to the time schedule. And I'll pass the mic back to Daria, I guess.
Yeah, of course, why not? Thank you, James, and thank you all. Thank you, Danislava, thank you, Jana, thank you, Andrea, and it was really interesting to listen, and a lot of deep insights, a lot of different opinions. Of course, we all know that we as individuals have our own visions on the things, and at the same time we try to speak on behalf of a bigger group of people, and we try to do it to our best. And I hope that this conversation, I have the impression this conversation went quite smooth, and yeah, I think everyone received enough attention. I'm probably not going to comment anything else. We're going to have later the conversations, I'm pretty sure, in the private chats, and etc., etc. And I'm happy that we just built yet another bridge here. So once again, I just wanted to thank everyone for this, and for the wonderful questions. It is quite a span, and we had quite a long conversation. So I think at this point we're already going to jump into the concert, which is our next milestone of today. The concert is composed of the pre-recorded pieces by the composers that are present at the current edition of the portfolio. such as, and I'm going to name every composer in the concert, Alla Zahaykevich, Святослав Волыньов, Максим Коломієць, Адріан Мокано, Максим Шалигін, Анна Аркушина, Яна Шлябанська, Анна Корсун, Олексій Шмурак, Золтан Алмаші, Роман Григорів та Ілля Розумейко, Сергій Вілка, Борис Логінов та Олексій Войтенко і Людмила Юріна. The duration of the concert is 1 hour 36 minutes, so perhaps it would be a good idea to make some tea and find a cozy sofa to enjoy it from. We invite you all to switch your mics and cameras off for now so that you can relax and our video stream could be fully immersive for all viewers. We will also turn off our cameras for now. So in case we won't see all of you at the end of the concert, we would like to thank once again everyone who was present with us today. All of you, our guests. Many thanks to our co-hosts, to our speakers. Special thanks to Art Music Denmark, and especially to Rune Sojtin and Regin Petersen. Huge gratitude to all our fantastic portfolio members, and my personal thanks to our entire dear team of Kyiv Contemporary Music Days. Please feel free to explore the portfolio. We will distribute the link to it for your convenience once again. We'll publish it in the chat as well, I guess. If you have any comments, questions, remarks, feel free to leave them in the Zoom chat or write to us by mail, kcmd@kcmd.eu. Please take care and enjoy the music. And let's start the concert. Bye.
I'm still kind of researching this question for myself, because I think this is really very, very important.
So Я sufrida, я irritada, Hot! Well, of 150. Poor flesh and trees, poor stuff and stone, but never. This one, specimen of hypermetrical ultra omni. Good universe next door. Let's go.
So that was all the concert. I hope you enjoyed it. It's impressive that someone is still here, but I know that a lot of people are still will watch the stream or did it already. We're very grateful once again to everyone, and we wish you a good evening. And we'll stay in touch. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.